And here we are. It is Tuesday, October 29th. I'm here with Baeth Davis. I had to confirm how to pronounce your name because the A threw me off. I now know it's Gaelic, and I'm already stealing some of your content. So I should probably just get you to introduce yourself.
What content are you stealing? I'm so flattered.
Well, I don't want to take your story from you.
I want to hear you tell it.
Your story?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, okay. I will tell you how I don't remember exactly how I first found you, but I do know it was a webinar you put on about a year and a half ago. And you had this morning I was like Googling it. Was it Susan Powder? Was that the look? It was like the short blonde hair and,
Oh, yeah, I just finished chemo and my hair was growing back. Yeah. Yeah.
So I saw you on a webinar a couple of months or a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, wow, the hair's grown back. So looking vibrant. Anyways, sorry.
Thank you.
This morning I was like, who was that woman in the 80s that was pushing all the exercise stuff?
Yeah, Susan Powder. My ex-boyfriend dated her and then called me up to tell me he was dating her when I was in my 20s. Yeah, it's a small world after all.
Well, there you go.
Yep, I know who she is. Yeah, he was very impressed and he felt a need to reach out to me after years of being broken up to tell me he was dating her. And I went, so?
He just thought, like, well, he didn't tell you that.
I guess he thought I'd be impressed or something. Of course, it didn't work out, but you know.
Oh. Okay, so back to
a
webinar, and it was on human design and the tarot. And I kind of half forgot about it. I do remember at the time, I don't know if you remember this, but I actually modified your document because it didn't match your brand.
Oh, yes. Thank you for that. I know I suck at the document beautification, and you made it so beautiful. It was a tarot card class I did. Thank you for that. I remember that. I'm like, oh, this guy Sean's so sweet. It was just so unexpected, and you were so generous about it. You're like, here, share it with the class. I'm like, oh, that's so much more attractive, the worksheet. Thank you.
Well, and thank you for putting it that way. In my mind, it was like, I need to be doing 4 things at once. And so that gave me something to be busy. I was like, oh, here's a project I can work on while she's talking about it. And then because I was like tweaking it, I was actually like taking in the content more. Because if I had to just look at it and read with you, it'd be 10 seconds and I'd be looking at something else. So
right.
It was actually like exactly what I needed. So anyways, that was really interesting. And I'd always sort of played with the tarot and oracle decks, and I really don't know what I'm doing. But it's always been kind of interesting. The only reason I'm telling you is I half forgot about that. And then in the last 6 months, I made a new friend in Dr. Eleanor Haspel-Portner. And a lot of her work ties into the tarot. And it's almost like that thing gave me the breadcrumb to find her. Because I don't remember how I stumbled across her, but the timing and the way everything flowed and how it's all kind of coming back to that. And then even this conversation today, I'll keep rambling here for a second, but I was looking at your website the other day and I was like, how did she grab yourpurpose.com? Like that's a desirable domain name in today's world. In my mind, it's like you either grabbed it 20 years ago, or are people only really thinking about what purpose is in the last 8 years? And then my brain started going into incarnation crosses, and then with Eleanor, she does something called patterns of orientation. And so like this whole week seems to be in my mind about purpose. And the other thing I was driving here from pickleball, I was just like, isn't it interesting that when you booked, like, because I sent a calendar thing for when it would work for you, it was like 8 weeks out. Like most people are like, oh yeah, Thursday, right? And yours is, so I was like, oh, I guess I'll wait for this. But the timing of it is exactly where I would love to actually talk about what you do, how you do it. And so here we are.
Great. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, actually, I did buy the domain very long ago. My father, who is a manifestor in human design, called me out of the blue and he said, Baeth, yourpurpose.com is for sale. You should buy it. And I went, yeah. And at the time, oh my gosh, this would have been almost 19 years ago, 2005. 2005. And I paid $2,500 for it or thereabouts then. It's now worth.
Someone else had it.
Now it's worth like, I don't know, 100 grand or some crazy amount. But at that time, I also bought up over 100 domain names, and I've kept probably 30 of them. And I use them for products and different things. And I always encourage people when they think of a domain name to check and see if anyone else has it, because when it's correct for you, there's so many words that haven't even been used just in the English language that are so correct for people. So I really encourage people to recognize that the only real scarcity is the scarcity of imagination
Hmm.
and living true to oneself.
Hmm.
Because when you live true to yourself, you actually aren't over consuming. You aren't trashing yourself or others or the planet. You're actually in harmony with nature when you're in harmony with your own nature. And so my real purpose on the planet, my purpose is to help people find their harmonious, joyful purpose. We're not here for suffering. The suffering's all Game of Thrones, manufactured mindset that really was meant to end, or is going to end, but it's not going to end for like another 150 years or so. It's going to have to cycle out.
Right.
It's going to have to cycle out. And because people are so deeply, deeply conditioned that I read recently, this was astounding to me. So I won't go into all the specifics, but I was in I was reading a research paper this psychologist had done about why family members become estranged and why they have trouble reconnecting. Where either usually it's the kids, the adult children that go no contact because of an abusive environment as kids, and they
Hmm.
have a reckoning. And basically, what the psychologist found was that the young adults today, people in their 20s and up, are very, very self-aware for the most part, and they won't put up with abuse. They won't put up with it. They won't put up with it in the workplace. They won't put up with their family, their relationships, their health. They're just not putting up with it. And their parents often would rather die, and many of them do die, than to have to open to the fact they actually, although they were better than their parents, the grandparents, they still were crappy parents and still quite abusive. And
Hmm.
so when the child brings the abuse to them and says, look, we got to talk about this abuse and work it out, people are so frightened because it will contact their trauma. They
Hmm.
actually double down that they did the right thing.
Hmm.
And that's what I see as almost the biggest impediment now in humanity on the individual level, is that people double down on their defense mechanisms. And so when you see someone doing that, what I say is don't back off.
Hmm.
Don't give up your sovereignty just because someone wants to push a projection. So people can't do that with me. Like I'll just call it out. Like you're projecting. No, I'm not. No, you totally are.
Hmm.
Because I know myself and I do have a lot of flaws, but that ain't them because I know myself. And
Hmm.
that's about you. And you want to drag me down in the lobster pot or the frog hot pot with you. And I'm not going in there. The crab's in the bucket.
Hmm.
Right. So misery loves company. And a lot of humanity has become addicted to misery because they are hopeless. They think there's no escape. But that's conditioning,
Hmm.
right? That's conditioning. So anyway, yeah, my dad called me about the domain name, and it kind of all started because I was in corporate and I hated it. And I don't use the word hate. Like everything about it, even thinking about it now 30 years later, makes my skin crawl. The fluorescent lights, the nasty hierarchy, these idiotic people in management trying to tell me what to do, like there's some king tut. They finally got a little power. And I'm like, and I would work and I'd be like, you can't talk to me like that. Who do you think you're talking to? Knock it off. I'm your equal. I don't work for you. I work with you. Keep it straight. You're going to get fired for that. I'm like, fire me. I can go work at McDonald's. What do I care? It's my life. You're not going to talk to me that way. So fuck off or get straight. And they'd be like, who the hell are you? I'm like, I'm me. I'm sovereign. I'm Jesus. And so are you. So act like it. So I've always had this very authoritarian, as a woman, energetic when people push me. Right. And so people aren't used to that in women. My biggest challenge is that if I were a man, no one would even question my authority. But because I'm a woman, people are like, are you manic? You seem angry. You're really intense. Are you bipolar? I'm like, no, I'm grounded in who I am. And I will not let you push my boundaries or abuse me in any way, shape, or form because I love and respect myself. And I will double down on that
Hmm.
no matter what. So as I have become more and more willing to risk people's disapproval, rejection, and gossip mongering, and they're trying to trash my reputation. I've had it happen so many times. I'm like, the rumors out there about me are hilarious. They come back to me sometimes. I always say to people, well, what do you think about what they said? They're like, oh, I think they're crazy. That's why I'm telling you. I'm like, don't tell me anymore. I don't care. Unless they come to me, whoever they are, I don't care.
Hmm.
So I've learned that people's opinions of me, unless I care about you, unless I care about your opinion, right? Like I do care about your opinion because I have love and respect for you as a human, Sean. So if you came to me and you said, hey, I have some feedback for you, I'd be like, yeah, what is it? Because you live your life with integrity. You keep your commitments, your word is your oath, you're loyal to your wife, you're loyal to your clients, you're loyal to your business partners. You're a loyal being. So I know from the energetic that you exude that I can trust you. You are trustworthy. Yeah. And so in that climate, we both get to grow. But if you had some kind of agenda and I triggered some kind of insecurity in you, or you felt less than, or who's this woman to tell me, whatever, then we can't ever really connect.
Hmm.
Right. And so the majority of human beings right now are terrified because while I've been beating my head against the wall for over 25, 26, 27 years doing purpose work full time as a business and encouraging people, the most important thing in your life is the fight for purpose. It's the only fight there is. It's the only fighting in life is with yourself.
Hmm.
And it isn't being against yourself. It's fighting those forces within you and externally in a healthy, productive way that would seek to derail your unique mission, be it
Hmm.
from however you look at it, the mission in your DNA, the mission from God, the mission from the earth. People look at it in different ways,
Hmm.
but every human being is unique in their DNA. They're unique in their biochemistry, which means that to be healthy, your life needs to be uniquely customized to you. Customization is the root of health. Homogenization is the root of death.
Hmm.
Homogenized milk kills off all the good stuff in the milk. Raw milk, you can live off raw milk if it's clean, right? I used to, in LA, when I lived in LA, I could get raw milk from this farm and I could go weeks just drinking raw milk, and it's complete food, just a little bit too, a little bit for lunch. So when we have the real diverse, complete food, complete relationship, right? Complete truth, when it's customized, right? What would you rather have? I love cars, right? I love 70s muscles cars. And I used to be a showgirl, car girl, so like the girl in the little dinky dress with the cute hair and the clipboard
Oh,
and my
yeah.
because I got to get paid to work car shows. And I love cars, And I'm always looking under the hood and stuff. He's like, oh, pretty car. I'm like, yeah, but you see that engine? Look at that V8. Look at the exhaust system on that baby. So yeah, I love muscle cars. And it's like, what would you rather have? A gray Toyota Prius or a customized hot rod that's electrified or runs on hydrogen? You know what I mean? Like in Norway, they have like more hydrogen cars than anywhere in the world. One of my friends in California has a hydrogen powered car.
Hmm.
Yeah, because hydrogen, when it burns, produces water.
Yeah.
Right? Exhaust is water. But it's very flammable because, you get hydrogen wrong, the car explodes. So, right. Remember the Hindenburg, right? How that one, well, that was helium, wasn't it? But it came down.
Uh,
So, yeah, I don't remember, but you got to be careful with those flammable gases. But nevertheless, when you customize, say, your car, right, you're customizing that driving environment to your body. It's like a car represents really, that's why people will dream about cars. And in dream analysis, it's the self, because a car is like your turtle shell, right? So it isn't, so when I see someone's car, I know what they're about, right? So if their car is really simple and clean, I'm like, oh, this person is a frugal, simple, clean person, and they like to keep it simple, right? And then there's the person you've seen the cars, they're filled with trash, the windows are duct tape, the person's smoking, the car's putt-putting down the world. That's how they feel about life. They got to be enclosed with like the smoke and the books and the right. And then you'll see someone drive by in a Bentley, right? Or their chauffeur is driving it.
mhm.
So the vehicle represents how we see ourselves and how we see the world to some degree. A lot of it, of course, is economic. I'm not advising everyone, go out and buy a Maserati. That might not be the best use of your money, but it's more like a metaphor for the work that I do is what diet is customized to Sean?
Mm-hmm.
What monetary relationship is customized to you? What business structure works with your biorhythm?
Mm-hmm.
Because some people can only work like 20 hours a week. And someone like you can pull off 18-hour days, collapse asleep in your clothes and pop up in the morning and be like, okay, let's go. I mean, you might occasionally need a nap, but for the most part, you're the Energizer Bunny. I looked at your chart.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm not like that. Like I get energy being with people, but when I don't have people, I'm just like, I like my face just goes into like this, I drop the mask, the outer mask, and I'm just like staring into space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The little autistic face, just yeah. So I always have resting bitch face in all the photos. People always ask me, "Are you mad?" I'm like, "No, I'm just autistic." It's so neurodivergent they call it, right? So
Yeah.
people don't even understand. Everyone's neurodivergent because everyone on the planet is a nine-centered being, nine
Mm-hmm.
chakra being acting like a seven chakra being, which is why we have all the war. Game of Thrones. I remember watching that show. I couldn't after the Red Wedding. I couldn't deal, and it's too violent. But I remember watching Game of Thrones and I'm like, this is what people think is entertainment. Murder,
Mm-hmm.
murder. Oh, Game of Thrones, it's such a great show. I'm like, is it? Because it is very well written. The sets are great. The men are hot. The women are beautiful. Yeah, okay. But they're all murdering each other for this stupid power and they're destroying all their citizens because they are narcopaths. Like, this is like literally just a documentary about now.
Yeah.
Is that the world we want to live in where the White Walkers, the zombies are like, So, with all due respect to the creators of Game of Thrones, it's like we need to move past that and create a new vision, Sean, for the children.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that. People talk about women and children, but I really, like, can we talk about patriarchy for a minute? Because I had a revelation about this the other day.
Can you house on
Unless you have
one?
a question. Yeah, yeah,
Well,
go ahead.
I have 1,000 questions,
Yeah, go
but this
ahead.
light behind me is making me crazy, and I'm
Oh,
surprised
okay.
you had
I didn't
said
even notice
something.
it. I didn't even
Okay.
notice it. I mean, I noticed it at the beginning, but I was just looking at you.
Yeah, but I can
I
see
was
it out of
just
the corner of
taking
my
in the light.
eye.
I was just
And I was
taking
like,
it all
how is she
in.
not saying something?
No, I like it. I was just taking it in. It's pretty
Yeah,
sparkly, like a nightclub.
it should be
Yeah.
just like colors. So I don't know why it turned
I
into.
I was admiring your style. I love that we get to do Zooms because you get to see people's style. And I'm like, I always see the contrast, like, oh, I like his style. Like everyone has such different style. And I'm always changing my style. Like now I've got this kind of green thing going on. Um,
Well, yeah, tell your story because then we can.
yeah.
I've got questions about design and all sorts of
Okay.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
So
almost sent me on a rabbit hole, but
yeah, this thing about patriarchy and the children.
yeah.
So I was trying to figure out like why is there so much animosity between men and women? And now, granted, the algorithm pumps up all kinds of division just to make people fight because we know that outrage fuels economies, right?
Mhm.
Outrage fuels engagement, basically. And so the more outrageous the social media can get, the more money they make. It's tragic, but true. Um, so I'm aware that a lot of it's manufactured, but nevertheless, there is a lot of violence on the planet, and it's mostly perpetrated by men. Like 95% of the violence on the planet is men against women, but also men against men. And I realized, like, I've talked with the men in my life who are good men, like yourself, good men, kind men. And I'm like, what's going on? They're like, well, good men are afraid of bad men too. And I'm like, so the majority of humans are afraid of the bad men.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. So why are there these bad men? And then I came across this comment in Reddit. It was anonymous, but it like blew my mind. And this person said this. It said, in a patriarchy, the dominant emotion for a male child is shame. Don't cry, pull it together, don't have feelings, man up. And then everything feminine is made fun of. And so, no matter how hard the parents try to raise this evolved boy, if he's in a public school, he comes home, saying misogynistic, horrible things, calling women bitches and all this. And it occurs to me, and this writer went on to say, what you disown, you hate.
Mhm.
So if you've been taught to hate your own sensitivity and empathy, When a person brings it to you, and it's primarily women, because women are wired to have that caretaking for the infant predominantly. There are men that have it, but I know as a woman that caretaking kicks in with any person in need. Doesn't
Mhm.
matter if they're 80 years old, right? The maternal, like, I want to care for you. So that women have that instinct to care and make sure everybody's taken care of. And when the boy is told that part of them's wrong, when the woman approaches, or the young girl approaches, or teenage girl approaches, there's pushback, right?
Mhm.
There's pushback against the disowned part of the self, the feminine. So I really see the work on the planet now for all of us is for women to learn to hold their own and hold their boundaries, and not allow people to push their boundaries, not allow people to manipulate them, because we've had to become passive aggressive. Our power has become very passive aggressive, which is toxic. That's
Mhm.
toxic femininity. And masculine power is just aggressive. So aggressive and passive aggressive, doing battle, but it's bad. Some women are aggressive, some men are passive aggressive, but for the most part, 80-20 rule. So I'm very excited that people are waking up to how they project their disowned parts onto others. Because wherever we have hatred towards another, or we're disgusted, right? Or we're like, really appalled by the behavior, that's usually something to look at the imbalance within the individual, the parts of themselves that have just been rejected. And of course, the conditioning starts before the little boy or girl can have a say.
Mhm.
And I had this reckoning at 11 years of age. It all shifted for me, because that was as I was hitting puberty, the boys started treating me horribly.
Mhm.
And they had been my friends before. And
Mhm.
that was when I was like, oh, I guess you have to be a man in this world to get any respect, because people aren't interested in my intelligence, or these boys weren't for sure, or being my friend. Like, they see me as an object to use and discard, and that is untenable to me. Like, no, no. Um, anyway, so on a global scale, I think collectively we have to return to seeing ourselves as valuable, because what we do to the earth, we do to our own bodies.
Mhm.
What we do to one another, we do to our own bodies and to the earth, right? It's all interrelated. And it's vital we learn to love ourselves and have respect for ourselves, because that engenders respect for the other. The more I love and respect myself, the more I don't want to meddle. I don't want to interfere. And I also don't want to be passive when I need to be active, like to warn you, like, Sean, look out, there's a car. Oh, thanks, Beth. Right? I would
Mhm.
be a horrible person if I just let you get hit by the bus when I could have said something. Right? So it's making that correct decision as much as possible, moment to moment in life. What happens is people get up in here when life is constantly giving you evidence of what to do. We're actually meant to be in a call and response with our environment. That's why we don't have to plan too much anymore. We don't have to effort. We don't have to make money. When we're correct, like, I don't eat that, I like this. I don't live there, I live here. I drive this car, not that car. My life is customized to me. We attract, life comes towards us.
Mhm.
And then we can manifest through relationship. We're meant to manifest through our relationship with one another.
Mhm.
When I don't have to do anything. I mean, I do things, but they're not from effort. They're
Mhm.
not from strain. They're not from pushing and killing and conquering and winning. I don't care. Winning what? What am I winning? What am I winning? The only win is to be devoted and committed to what I say I'm going to do and doing it. Right? The only thing that is worth that is the fight for purpose. It's the only fight. Doreen Virtue had this great quote. She has this great quote. She was the one that had all the angel cards and everything, and then she became a born again Christian. Who knows what that's about? To me, it's all the same thing. But anyway, um, it's all the same thing. She has this quote. She says, "There's no competition for your life's purpose." And I say the only fight in your life, the only fight there is your fight for your purpose. It's the fuel to fight for your purpose, which doesn't mean fighting others. It means fighting against your addictions, fighting against your tendencies towards laziness or gossip, fighting against porn addiction and work addiction and all of it. I'm not against any of those things if they're used consciously and medicinally.
Mhm.
But people get in these dopamine feedback loops now because they feel so hopeless about the world. They feel they have no sovereignty, no agency, no power, which isn't true, because that crap's an illusion that leads to the death of millions. And when we say I don't believe in that illusion, I'm not participating in the monopoly gamification of humanity. I am not an object. I am not a thing. I am a human being.
Mhm.
And the minute we made things more important than people was the beginning of this destruction. The most important thing are the babies. There's nothing more important than the children. Nothing. And until our world actually puts its money where its mouth is, I mean, these idiot billionaires are like, oh, we're going to like colonize Mars. I'm like, no, we're not. We have this beautiful planet, this gorgeous green blue ball,
Mhm.
perfectly suited, perfectly attuned to this organic body. And we just keep trashing it. We think we're going to like, what? The elites are going to fly to space. They're delusional. It's so
Mhm.
hard to get out of our atmosphere. That's why I don't go to the moon every week. It's so expensive. So So anyway, you can tell I've given this a lot of thought, but when Jeff Bezos is like democracy's in the darkness and we're going to go live on Mars, I'm like, dude, what are you smoking? Like, why don't you take all those billions, near trillions, and like just stop what you're doing?
Mhm.
Like, why? What? The minute you saw that, see, because you can't become a billionaire without having slaves. It's impossible. It's been mathematically proven.
Mhm.
There's no human design that says you're going to be a billionaire. No one is designed to hoard. No one,
Mhm.
right? And all of humanity can see this happening. And we're still letting these 2-year-old boys in man's bodies play shooting rockets and fucking Star Wars and play, oh, what superhero am I? I'm Superman and I alone can save the world. It's like, shut up, little boy. Put your toys away and go save some babies because the women have had enough. I tell you right now, Sean, we have had it. And I feel like I realized last night in the middle of the night, one of my archetypes is the Gen X mama. I realized the real problem for a lot of these individuals, women too. It's not just men, but it's mostly men at this point because of patriarchy. It's not their fault. It's that shaming that started young. Is they need to grow up. Killing people to negotiate resources is insane now. It's
Mhm.
insane. It's literally institutionalization already mental insane.
Mhm.
And no one wants to say it. And we all know it. Even they know it. They know they're insane, but they don't know how to stop, I don't think. I think they're so lost. I mean, imagine a lot of psychological studies have been done on billionaires, and apparently it's very difficult, even when you make a couple 100,000 a year, the ego just starts spiraling for people. So imagine having billions. These people are like, oh, you know, and a lot of comedians talk about population control, but that's exactly, they don't need to do it. Nature's taking care of the population. But
Mhm.
anyway, I would really like to see humanity just take their power back and say, no, you can't microchip me. No, you can't spy on me. No, you can't make me believe your religion.
Mhm.
No, you can't touch my body. Go away. Yeah. So that's where I'm at, looking at the world today. That's the weather report on the world.
Cool. I'm right there with you. And part of it was like, when she's kind of just riffing and channeling, is she thinking of my design? Because you were literally tapped into some of my thoughts. Like it was just like a full wavelength there for a bit, right? So it was like, do you find that you're customizing it because you just looked at my body graph, or it was just, are you channeling me through this? But some of
I'm
those
just
things
taking,
were
I'm
hit
taking
right
the
on the
way
nose.
the way my brain works is I take the whole thing in. That's why the light didn't bother me. I take in everything. I have a
Mhm.
right brain, right mind in human design. And the right brain, right mind, I literally, my awareness is eternal. Like when I wake up in the morning, this is so natural to me. Like, when we're in our theory of mind, right? The theory of mind is you think different than I think, which is correct. But if someone isn't aware of that, they just, and I like when I was a little kid, right? I just thought, well, everybody, we're humans, so we all think this way. We all, and it's like as you get older, you realize, oh no, people think as differently as there are 8.5 billion people. There's 8.5 billion ways to look at something. Okay. So as I started to recognize that, um, I realized that like I can just take everything in and I don't take it in with judgment. And a lot of it just comes in unconsciously.
Hmm.
But then I find that I'm somehow responding to whatever the energies are in that moment. It's like an instinctive flow. And I think too, because I started doing theater when I was 8 years old. So I overcame stage fright at age 8.
Hmm.
And then I was a theater major in college. And then in Hollywood, I quickly got all my union cards and an agent. And I quit acting because I didn't enjoy the industry. It is as bad as they say. I mean, pedophilia is kind of what they do.
Hmm.
Um, it's appalling. I mean, just the way they prey on the young kid stars, the Disney kids. It's no wonder they all lose their minds in their 20s because they've been so traumatized. And that was starting to happen to me, so I quit acting. And I had a great time when I did it, though. It was really cool. I met a lot of really cool artists and celebrities and stuff. It was actually really fun. Went to a lot of great parties. But at those parties, that's when I saw what was happening, the drugs and the underage girls and boys, and it was appalling. And the rooms with all the like the P Diddy thing. That's every party, and that's Hollywood. Like that, literally, you go to a party in Hollywood, a woman would walk up to me, any woman. So, hi, what can you do for me? And I'd be like, are you for real right now? Yeah,
Hmm.
what can you do for me? I'm like, nothing. Go away. Like,
Hmm.
ew. So that was kind of like it was so transparent. This was in the 80s, 90s. Yeah, the 90s. Hey, hi, my name's so and so. What can you do for me? I'm like, I don't know. You could go get me a drink. So anyway, yeah, it was crazy, crazy time. And so about that time, the stars of the TV shows and movies would always come to me for counseling. The producers, the movie directors. I'm sitting with like Rafe Fiennes. I don't normally name drop, but I mean, I have hung with all these celebrities and they're all asking me for advice. And I'm like, this is weird. So after like the fourth producer was like telling me about all his marriage problems, and he wasn't hitting on me, he was clearly wanting advice. And the other extras, if I was an extra, they'd all be like, why do they talk to you? They were all mad. I'm like, I don't know why they talk to me. I honestly don't. Like, don't be mad. I don't know why they're talking to me. And then I stepped away and I thought about it. And I was like, oh, I don't want to play a role. I want to help people figure out what their true role is. I want to be a coach. Now we're talking, this is 1995.
That came
I'm
up
gonna
for you like during that. That's interesting.
I'm gonna
Hmm.
be a coach. Yeah, it was just Nate. I didn't even know there were coaches. It was totally instinctive, like, oh, I'm gonna be a coach, whatever that is. Coach. Well, I knew people had sports coaches and I had an acting coach, right? I
Oh,
had all
okay.
these I paid thousands for these. That's why I became better as an actor. I had these amazing teachers in Hollywood. And I
Hmm.
did improv and I did commercial acting and I learned sword fighting and dialects and it was so fun. It was so pleasurable learning all that stuff. And it was great. It's turned out great for public speaking to learn all those skills. And yeah, so I was like, I'm gonna be a coach. And then I made business cards. I still have an original somewhere around here. I don't know if I still, yeah, it's right here. 1995. Dreamcatcher Career Consulting.
Cool.
I had someone design it for me, but Dreamcatcher Career Consulting back in 95, 96. And so I started telling people, hey, I'm doing career consulting. And they're like, yeah, you are. Oh my God, that's perfect for you. And so people started coming. And then I quit because I got scared and I went and got a job for a couple of years.
Oh, really?
And then, yeah. And then a friend kept saying to me, and I got really sick at my job. In fact, I went to the hospital and they did all these blood tests. And they're like, your white blood cell count is like if you have TB or something, but there's nothing wrong with you. I'm like, oh, it's my misery. I'm miserable. And so I found a spiritual teacher and she said, you're so miserable. You're going to die. She was right. You're going to die if you don't get unmiserable. You
Hmm.
need to do your purpose. And I go, what's that? She goes, you have a life purpose. I'm like, I do. She's like, yeah, everyone does. Don't you know that? I'm like, never really thought about it. I don't know. I figured you just go along, respond. I don't know. And she's like, yeah, your purpose. So about that time, like, oh, I should really get back in the consulting. And a friend said to me, you should get your hands read. And there was this woman named Terry Lynn Snyder, who was apparently an amazing palm reader. And my friend Pammy at the time kept bugging me. Pammy lived up in this great place in Malibu. And we'd have these potlucks up on the hill on Malibu that would look over the Atlantic. It was such a great life. LA, I mean, I was broke, but I mean, I lived off gallery openings. That's how I ate. I ate cheese and grapes and drank wine and hung out with celebrities at art openings just so I could eat. So yeah, it was great. I got a lot of great clients from all that. And so I finally relented because she was driving me nuts. And I thought, all right, I'll just tell her yes. So she stops bugging me. So this woman, Terry Lynn, shows up in my house and reads my palms. And I'm like, oh, this isn't like those palm readings on Venice Beach. She's like, oh, no, no. This is like your brain in your hands. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Like Evander Holyfield has different hands than me. Look at these hands. These hands can play the piano and type. You know, that's about what I do with them too. And I paint. They're art hands. I have art hands. You know, I don't have boxer hands. I have art. I've
Right.
tried boxing and it's almost broke. I love boxing, but almost, you know, I tape my hand and I'd still almost break my hand every time boxing. So I just gave up on boxing. I'm like, I'm going to break my hands. So, yeah, so we're biologically designed. You can just tell by someone how they're built. Like looking at you, you're strong, right? You're burly, you're naturally muscular. You have a wide jaw. You know, you have pretty wide set eyes. So you're very, very visual and you're very, very strong. And so your body then is telling me you have a lot of power, physical energy that I don't have. Right. And that's actually complementary. You know, like people that are like more receptive beings like me, more like kind of, you know, fragile, delicate, even though I'm strong, I'm fragile. You know, the stronger beings,
You don't come
this,
across as fragile.
oh, I don't. I know I'm not fragile like
Yeah, no,
I'm
I know
not
what you mean.
I'm not fragile like a Fabergé egg that you throw at the wall and it
Yep.
shatters. I'm more fragile like my emotions are very delicate and I have to really because I'm so sensitive and in tune emotionally that I have to constantly work to keep my emotions in a gentle, like keep calm and carry on. Because if I let my anger get out of control or I let my sadness get out of control, it can easily spiral into feeling dysregulated and kind of manic, or I can get a bit depressed. Now, people people will call that all sorts of names that I'm not going to label, but it's actually normal to have an emotional wave. It's actually 51% of humanity has emotional authority in human design.
Mm.
51%, which means that the majority of human beings are meant to live harmonized to their emotional body. And so my sensitivity is keeping my emotions in check because I've learned that as a woman, if I'm ranting, people will tune me out. Now, if I were a man, they'd be like, I'd be the number one podcaster on YouTube. Really. It's true. It's true. I'm going to do an experiment sometime and disguise myself as a man, and I'm going to do a test and show people the difference. People are so biased. So
Mm.
most people are so biased. It's insane to me. Like when someone's speaking, I don't care what they look like. I don't care. They could be trans, they could be gay, straight, male. Who cares? It's like, is what they're saying original, authentic, inspiring, helpful, educate? Who cares who's the messenger? And when I look out in the world, all this wasting about the surface is insane, right? Like all the judgment about how someone looks, it's the stupidest thing. It's so insanely stupid. It's hard to wrap my head around. So when people give me that, I know they're not for me. I'm like, if you can't listen to me as a woman, share this with you, then toodaloo. Like we're not a fit. You're a
Mm.
misogynist or a misandrist. Go away. I'm not doing it. Yeah. So the real thing on the zeitgeist right now is I want men and women to stop fighting and doing these stupid, the trad wife thing and Andrew Tate, Jesus Lord, like this, not, oh my God, that guy. The minute I heard his voice, I almost threw up.
Mm.
I'm like, who's Andrew Tate? So I looked him up. I threw the phone across my bed. I was like, oh, like that. That was my initial. I was like, oh, and I'm like, oh, that guy's a rapist. That was a little thought came flying out of my mouth. And then, you know, he's in Romania running from the law and he and his brother running a sex ring. And they're like, oh, he's such a role model for teenage
Yeah.
boys. I'm like, yeah, to be pimps.
Yeah.
If you want your son to grow up and be a pimp, yeah, follow Andrew fucking Tate. Oh my God. And they're all being paid by Russia. It's just crazy. So, you know, did you hear Dave Rubin? He's getting 100,000 an episode from some KGB. Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. The podcaster. Do you know him? Anyway, he's got millions of followers. Anyway, he used to be super liberal. And then I watched him over the years and he's like talking all these Russian talking points and he's acting all weird. And I'm like, I don't trust him. I remember going, nope, something's up. Sure enough, $100,000 an episode from some KGB informant.
Hmm.
Yeah. And it was like 5 podcasters, and there's probably more. They're all being paid by Russia. So to try, like, Putin's an okay guy. Just murders his opponents in prison with poison. But yeah, that's, good guy. So
Yeah.
that's the world we live in. Anyway, back to emotionality. So 51% of humanity is emotional.
Hmm.
And the key with emotions is like to feel each one, right? To be in tune with melancholy, bitterness, grief, anger, rage, pleasure, right? All the new, because there's really like 4 basic feelings, right? What is it? Mad, sad, happy, mad, sad, happy, and hurt. Mad, sad, happy, hurt. And then those 4 emotions are like the cross of emotions. And then all the other nuanced emotions fill the circle.
Right. Okay.
Right. So you have a cross of it, right? Mad, sad, happy, and hurt.
Happy hurt.
Yeah. So mad, the variations on mad would be from slightly irritated to destructive, murderous rage. Right. It's a scale. Or happy is from ecstatic pleasure. You're like having an orgasm. Your head's exploding. You're on MDMA and the angels are singing with you, and you're one with the universe and right? To, hey, that was a really good hamburger, or that's a really good salad. No, that was satisfying, right? So that's happy, and then hurt is someone steps on your toe, or someone uses something you share with them in confidence against you in an argument, all the way up to, your wife sleeps with your best friend and I'm not, you know what I mean? Or you sleep with and that's betrayal, right? So it's like the worst hurt of all is betrayal from someone you trust. Like that's the source of hurt, is betrayal from someone you trust. And then sad can be suicidal ideation. Life is hopeless. It's not worth living, which is just a feeling. You have to do anything about it. It's a normal feeling that 90% of humanity has. There's like 10% outliers that, like, I've never felt that, but they're usually not emotional authority either.
Mm-hmm.
The people I know who are like, I've never had a suicidal thought, they're almost never emotional types, right? They're just not. They're like, why would I don't even think about that stuff. I'm just here, But the emotional person, they can have suicidal ideation way down here, right? That can be one form of sadness, and then really be, crying at a Hallmark commercial, or watching, the stadium salute whatever flag, whatever country, right? And you're crying, your nationalism, you're crying, right? So that would be a very simple, like, moved, sad, appreciative, and then being suicidal. So all emotions have these extremes. And right from destructive, murderous rage to, damn it, my Amazon order is late and I won't have my special goggles for Burning Man. Right? Irritation, murderous rage. There's a whole scale in between, like frustrated, kind of angry, right? Pissed, right? Really pissed, right? It's on a scale. And so our job is to notice when we're just having the small emotion. If we don't want it to escalate into a big emotion that is going to be derailing us, is tune into the irritation before it becomes murderous rage. Tune into that melancholy before it comes suicidal ideation. If you're hurt, say something, and don't let that betrayal spiral out of control. Because even though I'm not a big fan of people betraying each other, many times people don't even realize the harm they're doing. I'm not excusing it, but people are monkeys. 70% of people are non-monogamous biologically, and they keep trying to be monogamous. I'm like, that's never going to work. You're just going to cheat. Why would you cheat? Why would you set your life? Why not just have an open relationship, right? So people do a lot of screwy stuff. Just if they were just honest, their life would work great. But we're conditioned to, like, people hide that they're gay. They hide their money. They hide their betrayals. They hide their secret interests. They hide their agenda. And that's not how we're meant to operate. We're meant to come into situations like you and I did today. We didn't have an agenda, except we're showing up.
Hmm.
That's the agenda. And then we're going to move with the energy because we're both now in the unknown and we're letting life come towards us right now in this moment that's never existed before. So why would we want to repeat what we've already done?
Yeah. Fascinating. So many things I want to, where do I want to go? um, the emotional thing was interesting for some reason. As you were talking about it, I was like, my brain was short circuiting. So I don't even know if I can quite put this into words, but I'm a non-emotional in
Yeah, you're
traditional
sacral.
design, right?
Yeah,
In modern
sacral.
work with four worlds, I actually have a defined solar plexus, but that's a different conversation for now. But you were talking about these, I started thinking like, okay, I'm non-emotional, but when you were talking earlier about melancholy, I get into these dips lately where I am absolutely sitting with an emotion, but I can't, I can't pull myself out of it, or it's a real struggle. I will say I'm much more aware of it now, and it'll be like, oh, I'm sad again. I got to put on my sad song, and I raise myself out of that sad place. But I don't, I lack the tools lately to catch myself before I fall into those dips. Like I still can't identify them until I'm like way in there.
Right.
So
Let me look at your chart real quick because I downloaded it. I won't bring it up on the screen, but I'm just going to look at
you can bring up the screen. I
um
make chart all the time, so I'm not worried
okay,
about
let me
that.
see if I can find it here. All right,
But
let me see if I can find it. Yeah,
a
keep
few,
going, keep going.
a few things you said, like I'm also curious about your design because there's certain things that you've said. I'm just like, okay, she's speaking exactly my language. So where is that coming from? So
All right.
yeah,
Well, you and I have a lot in common. Our life purposes are very intertwined because you're the Sphinx
mhm.
and I'm masks. And so in
Oh,
our personality sun and earth, we have gate 7 and gate 13. Right. So I'll bring it up. Yeah.
sure.
I'll bring up your chart.
I don't think I've heard of the masks because I know there's a
Okay,
ton of
these
incarnation crosses, but I don't recall hearing masks.
Mass is pretty real. You know what's crazy? Can I tell? Wait, I'm gonna stop the share. Can I just tell you the quickest story about
Sure.
Mass? It's so crazy. So I had moved to New Jersey and I'd had a pretty bad breakup during the pandemic, which surprises no one because the pandemic was just like that. But then I did some therapy and I cleared it. I wish the guy well. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to date again. So I'm like, I'm just going to go on Tinder. I know Tinder is a cesspool, but I've heard that sometimes people meet people that are good. So I went on Tinder. It was a cesspool. I mean, 99% of the guys had to send me the most obscene pictures. And I'm just like, I don't even know you. Like block my whole day, block, block, block. And then I met this guy and I knew he had my birthday. So we met for breakfast. I'm like, when's your birthday? He's like, August 9th. I go, mine too. He goes, no. I showed him my driver's license. He's like, how is that possible? Then I ran his chart, same incarnation cross, masks.
Oh, like
And
same birthday as in same year as well?
no, different year,
Oh,
but
different year,
same
but still the
incarnation
same crowd.
cross. Yes. Same
Hmm.
incarnation cross. So that's when you that's the nature of fractal, which is you will attract what you need, good, bad, or ugly,
Hmm.
to either get you back on your path because you've gone sideways or to keep you going on the correct path. So
Hmm.
I'm gonna bring up your chart here. Yeah, and you're sacral or sacral. So the thing with generators, I just taught a whole class of this week, right? So the sacral is defined in red in 70% of humanity, the
Yeah.
sacral, right? And you know all this, but for people watching, right? The sacral beings.
Yep.
And I am also defined sacral, but I have a defined solar plexus. Yours is undefined. However, melancholy, melancholy comes from the individual gates. And you have gate 3, which is the home of melancholy.
Oh, is that where that
And you
little?
have, yeah, and you have the 1/8 channel, which is the artist. Your chart is so extraordinary. I've never seen anything like this, Sean. It is mind blowing. And I'm going to tell you why. This is just so wild. I want to just make this a little bit bigger because it's so special what you've got going on here. Let's see if I can just zoom in. My mouse. There we go. Okay. All right. So we've got the throat center here, right?
Hmm.
Define throat, you're a communicator. Now, here's where it gets wild. You have a this chart is just, it's magic. Okay. First of all, I'm getting so excited. I'll stick with what's defined, and then I want to talk about the 3 open centers. So you
Okay.
have these 3 channels, and you have the 10-20. All right. So there are 5 leadership channels, primary leadership channels in a chart. And the 5 channels are the 10-20, which is the total individual. You go your own way. You do your own thing. You're here to role model being you.
Mhm.
And then the 7-31 we both have, which is the alpha channel. We're both alphas, right? So that's what people feel. And we're both alphas consciously. I'm not an alpha in my design. When I'm by myself, I don't feel any of this. And so I feel like, you're so strong. And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I need days of sleep and I'm very high maintenance, and no, but I can do alpha for the public, right?
Well,
Same for you. Same
can
for
I
you.
say something to that too?
Yeah.
Because my
Yeah.
wife and I have, she has the 731 as well. And there is something immediately about you where and I've said this to other people at the Alpha, like when I tell them about it, it's like you can look them in the eye and be like, sup? Like you just kind
Yes.
of know,
Oh,
right? Yeah.
you know instantly. And
Yeah.
that's the thing, like a lot who have chills, a lot of my close friends are also alphas. Now,
Mhm.
here's the thing. When they have events, I either don't go or sit way in the back of the room because I don't want my aura overtaking their leadership.
Mhm.
Now, with alphas, there's respect. Like what you can only have one alpha leading at a time.
Mhm.
And like one wolf, you only have one wolf leading the pack at a time, or else there's a fight.
Mhm.
But others who don't have that full channel and they're trying to lead something and I show up, bad news bears. And how would I even know that except for human design? You know, the
Mhm.
leader would gang up on me or they'd be like, why aren't you taking responsibility and showing leadership? I'm like, because I paid to be an attendee and you're the leader.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the alpha channel. Oh, you want me to lead? That'll be 50 grand. And I paid you to lead me. So sorry, not sorry. And then after that, I'm like, that's never happening again. That's it. I am no longer going to spend money and go into spaces where people expect me to lead, but then don't let me lead,
Yeah.
or I'm not asked to lead, right? But then they expect it on, it's just a shit show. So, but you
Mhm.
would never know this except for the mechanics, right? So let me bring your chart up again because it's so spectacular. All right. So you got the alpha channel. Then
Yeah.
you have the next leadership channel, the 1-8, which is the talent manager. So the 1 is the artist, the highly creative. You're so creative. And then the 8 brings it to the community. So think about something like Burning Man. Individual talent towards group goals, or a symphony. I went and saw this band last weekend. Big band. The musicians like playing the Boston Pops and symphonies all over the world. Oh my God, this band was outrageous. It was like going to see Louis Armstrong in the 40s, probably. It was mind blowing, Sean.
Wow.
And the resonance of these musicians, and they were all just so relaxed and so happy. And each one of them was a soloist. They were soloists that formed a band,
Mhm.
a big band. They were like, what, 20 people?
Mhm.
And that's the 1-8. So the best band in the world are masters, gate 1, who gather together in cooperation to share art. And the 1333 is collective listening. It's the prodigal.
Mhm.
So the prodigal goes out in the world, screws everything up, wastes a bunch of money, bumps into crap. And then you like come home, you atone for all your adventures, and then you share the secrets of what you've learned. And you're able to do the whole thing. I've never seen this. The only other leadership channel is the 2145, which
Mhm.
is the money channel. It's a dictator channel. Donald Trump has this channel. So actually, what people are responding to in him, no matter what he says, no matter how much he lies, they're responding to his channel, right? They're responding to tribal leadership. It's crazy. Like people know, they feel the energy, right or wrong, they feel the energy. So there
So
are
can I ask,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah, go ahead.
ask a
Go
question?
ahead.
Because I actually have the 21 in Chiron as well. So I have half of that channel. Now, what does that complicate for me?
It doesn't, because Chiron isn't implicated in human design. It's not part of the chart. The
Mm.
voice even said so. I mean, a lot of the things they're doing, I won't name names on these sites. It's just not correct. It's not human design. And it
Mm.
confuses people. Like it's tropical. Why? Because it's an earth system. Human design is about form principle. It's about your body. It's not about cosmic, it's not about being out of your body and like going to Mars. It's about being in your body. right? And feeling this life experience. It's about being human. Like Ross said, he's like, I love humans. I love human differentiation. This is our tiny window to flourish. We're in
Mm,
it now. The door opened for human differentiation for the first time in our million-year history. It's our chance. It's the freaks and the innovators and the artists and the scientists. It's our chance to flower. And every time we get this chance, historically, the fascists show up and then they blame the innovators, which is the dumbest thing ever. It's like, dude, we're on your side. Like, we're team humanity. We don't want to stop you from doing what you want to do, but you don't get to stop us from what we want to do either.
yeah.
So the fascism kraken comes out, right? As my friend said, every 80 years, it like out it comes, like, because fascism isn't for anything, it's just against. Like those idiots marching through Charlottesville, death to whoever. And
Mm,
it's like, okay, dudes, wow, you're two with a torch. You're a problem. This is what I mean. Like, who mothered these idiots?
mhm,
It's like, go home and get some therapy and shut up. You racist dummy.
mhm,
You're just endorsing slavery, you silly fool. Like, get a purpose, get a life, like, go help somebody, go help elderly at the nursing home. Why don't you go to Africa and build a village if you're such a He-Man? Why don't you build housing for your town and just shut up?
mhm.
You racist fuck. Just shut it up. No one needs to hear that crap.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Nope.
Now, I'm all for free speech, though. I'd rather hear it than not.
Yeah.
Now they're censoring speech. And I'm like, you're not censoring mine. I'll fall on my sword before they tell me to shut up. It's
Mhm,
my voice. It's my world. I'm indigenous to my body. I'm indigenous to this planet. And so is everyone else. And
mhm.
how does anyone decide they're the boss of me? Why am I not the boss? How are you the boss? Right? It's insane. It's insane. And I'm just not having it. Anyway,
And
back to you. You have these four channels. You are leader, Sean. You are
yeah.
going to be called, my friend, big time.
So
You could lead,
I've,
you could lead anything. You could lead anything you wanted to lead. I've never seen that in thousands of charts. I've never seen it in the 10,000 hands I've looked at.
hmm,
Um, I've never seen that. I've never seen 4 out of 5 channels. I've seen people have half of the 5 channels. I had a client, she's got 3 of them and she's a powerhouse, but I've never seen 4 out of 5. Like, man, you are built to lead
well,
in a creative way.
yeah, yeah, and I'm picking up on that. It's pretty interesting. Like, what do I want to go with this? I have the alpha in me. I'm a powerhouse, so I've been told, right? I had a reading a week ago from Barbara Ditlow. I won it as a raffle at the Human Design Conference, and that was just like it
Oh,
was awesome,
she's great.
right? And
She's
she's a
great.
Sphinx as well, and
Yeah.
we had a lot of
Yeah, she's
similarities.
so talented.
So it was so interesting. But she said before we met, she assumed I'd be like this tough guy. She was like expecting a tough guy, and then I show up, with my little troll doll in my head, and and it's just very interesting. Like I recognize the power in me, but for whatever reason, and many reasons, I've always dulled the shine. I've, hidden, and I'm now at a point where I'm like I can't decide whether I'm playful or I'm doing this for others' benefit. So it's a very interesting crossroads, and even like I was thinking of like my brain squirrels in 10 different directions. So while you're talking, I'm like having all these little. I remember playing pickleball an hour ago, and there I'm either a dominant force that intimidates, or if I upset, say a woman, and a lot of them are in their 70s, so I have several advantages, right? So and I just want to play
They're
pickleball,
like, Sean, easy on the serve, man. I'm 70. I can't move as fast as those young knees. Like, chill, man.
right? But the thing is, they're whacking it at me, right? So I'm
Right,
like,
of
I'm
course. They're like, take this,
self-defense.
mister.
Yeah,
Yeah. They're getting out all their anger about being right? Their anger at men. It's you're a safe target because you're so loving.
yeah. Well,
Whatever their anger is, their anger at anything. Like, take that, Sean.
it's a bit of that, and I think it's they sort of just assume I can take it, and that
Yeah.
I was just naturally sensitive, and so it's a paradox. I'm still unraveling, but I'm starting to recognize the power and becoming comfortable with it because it was not comfortable. It's still not very comfortable. So yeah,
Nah, no.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're Sphinx. And so
Hmm.
the cross of the Sphinx, first of all, you're 3-5 profile. So you're the martyr heretic. So, you'll get blamed for stuff. Your job is to not be martyred, right? Because of your heresy. You don't want to get hung on the cross, figuratively.
Hmm.
And, and you're here to go through all this trial and error, all this testing, experimenting to show us what works and what doesn't. You're a fixer.
Hmm.
People don't really see you because of that fifth line. They project. So you're a bit of a man of mystery. Um,
They literally don't see me sometimes.
no,
I've actually like had where I've stood and two other people, I'll be standing in line, and these little, usually smaller women will just sort of like somehow appear in front of me, and I will have been waiting my turn, and I am like, am I actually invisible? Did I
yeah,
die and someone didn't tell me? Like it was
right.
just the strangest thing. And I'm like, I think I'm fairly, you can't miss me, right? So.
It happens to me all the time. I was just telling my mother that the other day. I said, Mom, I don't know what it is. I can be waiting to board a plane. 50 people decide I am the person to walk right in front of.
Mhm.
I can be waiting in line to like get a snack at a music festival and everybody cuts in front of me. And I'm like, and I do think it's something about how we're so accepting. Like we're actually, because we're a mirror, people see themselves. Like
Yeah.
that's why they don't see us. They like see this reflection and then they're like, oh, it's kind of hypnotizing. It's seductive. We have a seductive aura. And so in that seduction, it sucks in the other and they don't even see us sometimes. They
Yeah.
just see themselves. Yeah, what they want to see. It's very mysterious.
Do you think it's the alpha thing as well, though? Because as you were saying that, I was remembering a Christmas party I was at, and it was at a friend's house. I'm just sitting on this couch, and this fella next to me, he was wearing like elf pajama pants. Like it was a very low key affair. It doesn't matter other than that. That's what I remember. Is this guy sitting next to me? For some reason, he's getting all wired or fired up about his wife uses a walker and people don't hold the door for her and stuff like that. And for whatever reason, he's telling the story. Don't even know him. He starts like slamming into me like I'm the person he's trying to send the message to. And so it was like two, three times where I'm like, what's with this story? And then I just kind of looked at him, and that was it. It was just like, shoo. And then he was like, I need to go to the bathroom. And he he left, went to the bathroom, came back, and he's like, hey man, I'm sorry if I was whacking it there. I just knew you could take it or something. And I thought, wow, that was like completely mechanical. But
So
it,
mechanical, yeah.
yeah.
And you start to see it's mechanical, and then you realize it's about awareness. Because
Hmm.
once most people, like Ross said, he said most people don't even realize their influence sitting in someone else's aura. Like you literally absorb their aura and absorb their, like the reason people get sick is they're hanging out with the wrong people. They're in the wrong place, right? And so he said people don't even realize they're being influenced by someone's aura, never mind the solar system. We're being conditioned constantly. And so the way I look at it is you can't get out of the matrix because we're in the matrix. All the matrix is waves and particles, mostly from the sun and some from Jupiter. And we're in this neutrino soup, and Ra called it sailing neutrino sailing. And we're each a boat in the matrix sea, and all we have is decisions,
Hmm.
this or that, starboard or port. We're just going along, adjusting, and we're meant to adjust to what feels right inside,
Yeah.
right? Feels correct, as long as it doesn't hurt other people, right? There's usually some ethical considerations there that, you know, it's good as long as it doesn't hurt me, it doesn't hurt you. But
Hmm.
even people hurting themselves, I feel like that's totally their right. If they want to hurt themselves, well, I mean, those, unless they're child or something, then I will do what I
Hmm.
can. So you have these 4 leadership channels and you're the cross of the Sphinx. So the Sphinx solves riddles and you're a listener. Why people come to you is to listen. So
Hmm.
strangers will approach you and just tell you their most pressing emotional concern because you have an undefined solar plexus. So it
Hmm.
amplifies what they're feeling. Your job is to not take on their feelings, but notice the amplification so you can reflect back to them. Wow, you seem really wound up about this. Stressing you out, huh? That'll
Ooh,
pattern
that's
interrupt like
big.
that'll pattern interrupt people. They won't even know what hit them. They're like, oh, am I? Oh, yeah, you are. You really are. And then they'll go to the bathroom. So that's the solar plex thing. But the other crazy thing in your chart is you have 3 open centers that have no gates. And Ross said, I'll show you what I mean. I know we have
Oh
to.
yeah, head the
I know, I
Ajna.
see the time. You've got see, look at this. You have the undefined head, undefined ajna, and open
Yeah.
part, right? So open is no gates, no channels, totally open. And what Ross said is that's a PhD level. It means that you've mastered the center and those gates on a soul level. And they're your areas of mastery,
Hmm.
which means that you have a totally open mind with 4 leadership channels and a totally open will, which means you have nothing to prove. And that's what people feel. They feel that you have an undefined ego because you don't have anything to prove. See, I have a defined ego. So that energy is very different, right?
Hmm.
Like ego energy is competition. An open ego is like, yeah, I'll compete when I need to, if I need to, when I want to, if I feel like it. I have nothing to prove. And defined egos is the same thing. I have nothing to prove. I have a defined ego. Why would I have to prove anything? I can do it. If I decide to do it, I could do it. For you,
Hmm.
you can't make promises. See, you can't say, "Oh yeah, I'm definitely going to do that." No, 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 no. That's not the
Hmm.
point of the open ego. The open ego is come to me and I may or may not help you. It
Hmm.
depends. It just depends. But you never make promises. You're there if you're there and you're not there if you're not there. Because your chart is so wild because it's so much about an individual, you being empowered. And the empowerment of Sean is why you keep being invited to lead. There's nothing you have to do about it except become more and more yourself, more and more true to Sean. And the
Hmm.
more you're authentic to Sean, the more the great invitations come, the great requests, the great paycheck. Like it all just comes to you because as generators, we don't pursue, we attract. We're
Hmm.
magnets. I don't even have to leave my house. People are like, oh, you got to go out and network. I'm like, I don't. The phone rings. It's the person that's supposed to call me.
Hmm.
I'm a generator, right? It all comes to me. And then we add all these mental layers because that's how we're conditioned as 7 center beings. It was about the mind making a plan to kill the woolly mammoth. The majority of humans are still living that way. I got to make a plan and I got to kill. The worst thing that ever happened to business was competition.
Hmm.
Competition is for games. Competition is for bettering yourself. Competition is an individual exercise. It has nothing to do with the tribe,
Hmm.
right? Or the collective. And so we have governments that made competition their plan.
Hmm.
And when you do that, eventually everything gets destroyed and there's nothing left
Hmm.
because it's a zero sum Ponzi scheme, monopoly, board game, gamification, people as commodities. Basically, what the corporations have managed to do is sell you harmony and make you want it so bad because they're dedicated, because they're sadists, they're sadistic to making life misery.
Hmm.
And by making life misery, they can sell you all the harmony. They've co
Hmm.
opted reality. They're selling us our birthright, which is peace.
Yeah.
And I'm not having it. No
No.
thanks. Nope.
Yeah. I've been fighting it forever, and it was making me sick. So, like, I live in Victoria, BC. It's the capital of the province here. So it's government town. And so most business that I would try to do as a computer consulting company would be responding to, we call them RFPs. I don't know if it's the same in the States,
Yeah,
but,
request for
but
proposal. Yeah. I used to do them when I worked corporate. I was in charge of the RFPs. So yes, I know what they are. Yeah.
I,
Spreadsheets and RFPs. Yes.
and they end up just being fixed. Like it's deals made, it's wasting people's time.
Yeah.
The number of times that like there was one that was so ridiculous. I had built the team for a particular job. Like there was no question the company I had was unique in Canada, possibly in North America, and 6 blocks from Island Health here, which is our provincial health organization. They were called VHA at the time. Submitted a proposal, spent 5 days on it, even though, shouldn't have had to do anything because we were just clearly the right company. We didn't win it, didn't even get in the selection criteria. And I was always I didn't like to waste people's time. So it was very clear our contract didn't have all sorts of legalese about, change requests and all that. It was just like, we will do this job for this price. We didn't even get it considered. I actually, for the only time ever, uh, asked to have a call, like an after call to discuss the thing. And the guy tells me, "Oh, he didn't win because he didn't have enough qualified people." I was like, "No, actually, we have the most qualified team anywhere, and it's on page 6." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, right, okay. Well, you didn't have this, and or you weren't local enough." And I was like, "For six blocks away." He then says, "Well, really, what happened is it didn't make a noise when it hit the table. So we didn't win an RFP because it wasn't thick enough to make a sound to ensure that everybody else benefited, lawyers, the whole process. I had submitted something that was lean, mean, and I was done. It was the next 12 years was just, I think I just, even when I think about that time frame, it just took the wind right out of my sails. It was like handed in an ethical thing for an organization that's controls our health. It was sickening. And then to have my time wasted, and like they never even read it is what the problem was, because it wasn't thick enough. Like, what kind of crazy bullshit
Well,
is that?
you've heard that the key to mega wealth is laziness and incompetence,
Mhm.
because people like that get everyone to do everything else for them. I will say that that behavior has infiltrated almost every small town and city around the world. I see
Mhm.
it where I
Oh,
live. I see the graft. I see these guys doing, mostly guys. There's some women, um, but it's these business people, and they're mismanaging resources. They're doing all sorts of really unethical and sometimes illegal stuff. And there's really no way to stop them because most of them are lawyers, and they've been planning this takeover for 40, 50 years, right? It's top down from the UN. That's documented. It's worldwide. And what's great is it's ending. It's all going to fall apart like an old Ferris wheel. It's just going to disintegrate to the ground. We're going to have a big party. Bye,
mhm.
grift. Bye, con artists. Bye. We're in charge now.
Oh,
Toodaloo. Go find your purpose.
I want to talk about that. Well, how are we doing for time? Because I'd love to go
I
down.
got to go in like 3 minutes.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
because I have my lab this week and today's
yeah.
the last session, and I got to set up the streaming.
Okay. Well, why don't we wrap there, and then I'll talk to you offline here for a minute. And
Sure.
but I mean, that was a hoot.
That was
So
great. I know. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. And I'd love to. I'd love to interview you sometime too, so I could just listen to you. Thanks for
I'd,
listening. Thanks for asking.
I'd love to. Sure. Okay. Let
Great
me hit the little
combo.
button here. We'll look all pro, and then just hang tight there for